Velthar had seen 347 species join the Galactic Coalition. He had watched warriors from ice worlds and fire planets. He had observed creatures with 6 arms and beings made of living crystal. Nothing surprised him anymore. Or so he thought. The observation deck of Valoris Prime Station hummed with its usual quiet energy. Velthar stood at his post, his 4 eyes scanning the latest arrival schedules on his datapad. The Kryn Empire had assigned him here 20 cycles ago. His job was simple: watch new species, evaluate their potential, write reports. It was boring work for a soldier like him, but someone had to do it. Another batch today, his assistant Krell said, sliding next to him. From that small world in the outer spiral. What were they called again? 1. Eystein. 1. Humans, Velthar replied without looking up. From a planet called Earth. Earth, Krell repeated, testing the word. Sounds soft. Like mud. Velthar finally looked at the arrival bay window. A small ship was docking. Nothing impressive. Human ships were compact and plain, without the artistic designs of the Valorn or the intimidating spikes of Kryn vessels. It looked like something built for function, not beauty or fear. The airlock hissed open. 4 humans walked through. Velthar studied them with professional interest. The first was a male, tall for their species, but still shorter than Velthar. He wore a dark blue uniform with sharp creases. His face was stern, unsmiling. The name tag read, Captain De Hyun. His eyes moved constantly, taking in everything. Evaluating. A soldier's eyes. Behind him came a female, shorter, with black hair tied back tightly. Her uniform bore the rank of lieutenant. G1 was stitched on her chest. She carried a datapad and was already studying the station layout. An analyst, Velthar guessed. The third was another male, younger, with easier movements. Woojin was his name. He had grease stains on his hands, despite his clean uniform. Engineer. Definitely. The last was a female, with a diplomatic sash across her uniform. Heijin walked with grace, her face arranged in a pleasant, neutral expression. The talker of the group. They look weak, Krell whispered. No natural armor. No claws. Small teeth. How did they survive on their own planet? Velthar had to agree. Humans had none of the physical advantages he expected from a species seeking military alliance with the Coalition. Their skin was soft, easily damaged. They had only 2 eyes with limited range. Their bodies were fragile compared to the Kryn's armored hide. Perhaps they're clever, Velthar suggested. The small ones often are. The human delegation was met by Ambassador Thorin, a pompous Velorn who loved ceremonies. Velthar watched the introductions through the glass. The humans bowed slightly, a sign of respect in their culture. They smiled often. They seemed friendly, almost naive. Captain De Hyun caught Velthar watching. For a moment, their eyes met. The human's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his gaze. Recognition, maybe. Assessment, certainly. Then, the moment passed, and the humans followed the ambassador toward the conference halls. I'll give them 3 days before they withdraw their application, Krell said. They don't look like fighters. Velthar said nothing. He had learned long ago not to make quick judgments. But privately, he agreed with Krell. These humans didn't look like warriors. The next day, Velthar attended the formal presentation. The conference room was filled with representatives from a dozen coalition species. The humans stood at the front. Professional, but not intimidated. Heijin spoke first, her voice clear and calm. She talked about Earth, about human history, about their desire to join the galactic community. We come in peace, she said, using the old phrase. We seek knowledge, friendship, and mutual protection. Standard words. Every species said something similar. Velthar took notes, but felt his attention drifting. He had heard this speech hundreds of times before. Then Lieutenant G1 stepped forward to present their military capabilities. She activated a holographic display. Numbers and charts appeared in the air. Fleet sizes, weapon specifications, defensive capabilities. Everything was average. Not bad. But not impressive either. Our technology is developing rapidly, G1 explained. We may not have the most advanced weapons, but we have determination and adaptability. Ambassador Thorin nodded politely, clearly unimpressed. Yes, yes. Very nice. Now, let's discuss the evaluation trials. Captain Dae Hyun spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but carried weight. We're ready for any test you require. Excellent, Thorin said. As per Coalition protocol, you must demonstrate combat capability. A simulation will be arranged. Standard scenario. Defend a colony from raiders. You'll have access to Coalition equipment. Most species complete this in 6 to 8 hours. Acceptable casualty rate is 30%. Do you understand? Oh, we understand, Da-hyun replied. We'll schedule it for tomorrow then. That gives you time to rest and prepare. Tomorrow is fine, Dae-hyun said. But we don't need rest. We can begin immediately if you prefer. Thorin laughed, a bubbling sound. Eager. I like that. But no. Tomorrow is standard. Use the time wisely, Captain. After the meeting, Velthar found himself in the station's observation lounge. He often came here to think. The stars beyond the window were distant and cold, much like his feelings about this assignment. Excuse me, a voice said. Female, speaking accented but clear Galactic common. Velthar turned. Lieutenant G1 stood nearby, holding a cup of some steaming liquid. I'm sorry to interrupt, she continued. I noticed you watching us earlier. You're the military observer, correct? I am. Velthar confirmed. Velthar, of the Kryn Empire. G1, she said, though he already knew. Velthar studied her. Most species use the preparation time to study equipment or plan tactics, not to question the observers. It's a standard combat scenario. Raiders attack a colony. You defend. The simulation adapts to your actions. How realistic is it? Very. The AI is programmed with data from actual raider attacks. It thinks like real enemies. G1 nodded slowly, sipping her drink. And the 30% casualty rate. Is that expected or acceptable? Both, Velthar said. War has costs. The Coalition understands this. Crossed. Something flickered across G1's face. Not fear, not doubt. Something else. I see, she said quietly. Thank you for the information. She turned to leave, then paused. Can I ask you something, Observer Velthar? You may ask. Have you ever lost a battle? Velthar stiffened. The Kryn do not lose battles. We may tactically withdraw, but we do not lose. Of course, G1 said, but her tone suggested she didn't believe the distinction. One more question. Have you ever fought an enemy that scared you? Velthar wanted to say no. The Kryn feared nothing. They were the premier warriors of the galaxy. But something about the human's steady gaze made him answer honestly. Once, he admitted. During the Breach War, we faced an enemy that fought without logic, without mercy. They didn't care about casualties. They just kept coming. What happened? We won, Velthar said. But it was difficult. G1 smiled, a strange expression. Thank you for your honesty. I hope we don't disappoint you tomorrow. She left before Velthar could respond. He stood alone in the observation lounge, watching Earth's small ship in the docking bay. Something about the conversation unsettled him, though he couldn't say why. That night, Velthar reviewed the human files again. Their planet was classified as a Class 7 death world. High gravity, Extreme weather. Abundant predators. Most coalition species came from gentler worlds. Humans had evolved, fighting for survival every day. He noted their history. Countless wars, terrible weapons, unimaginable destruction. Yet they survived. They always survived. Velthar closed the files and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would be routine. Another species, another test, another report. Nothing would surprise him. He was wrong. The simulation chamber was a massive sphere, 50 meters in diameter. Holographic projectors lined every surface, capable of creating any environment imaginable. Velthar had watched hundreds of species train here. Some succeeded, many failed. A few quit halfway through. He sat in the observation booth with Ambassador Thorin and a dozen other coalition officials. Below them, the human team prepared their equipment. They had been given standard coalition weapons: plasma rifles, energy shields, combat armor. Nothing special. The same gear every applicant species received. Captain Daehyun gathered his team in a tight circle. Velthar activated the audio feed to hear their planning session. Most species spent hours on strategy. The Kryn themselves took at least 2 hours to plan a proper defense. "All right," Daehyun said, his voice calm. "G1, what do we know?" The lieutenant pulled up a holographic map. Colony layout is standard. Civilian center, surrounded by industrial sectors, 3 access points. The raiders will likely attack from multiple angles to divide our forces. Weapons? Plasma-based. Effective but slow reload time. We'll need to make every shot count. 9. Defenses? Barriers and shields. Good for stationary positions. Bad for mobility. Barriers and shields. Good for Port Nu. Barriers and shields. Good for mobility. Good for mobility. Daehyun nodded. "Woojin, can you modify anything?" The engineer studied the equipment. "Give me 10 minutes. I can adjust the plasma rifles for faster cycling. Won't be perfect, but better. Do it. Heijin, you're on civilian coordination. Keep them calm and moving to safe zones." The diplomat nodded. "Understood. G1, you're with me on tactical oversight. We'll direct from the central tower." Velthar checked his chronometer. 12 minutes had passed. 12 minutes of planning. It was absurdly short. The Valorn delegation next to him whispered among themselves, clearly amused. This would be a quick failure. "They're not taking this seriously," Ambassador Thorin muttered. "Perhaps humans aren't ready for coalition membership." Velthar said nothing. He watched Captain Daehyun's face. The human wasn't smiling. He wasn't relaxed. His eyes held the same calculating intensity from their first meeting. This wasn't carelessness. This was something else. "Begin simulation," the computer announced. The chamber transformed. Suddenly, a colony appeared below them. Buildings, streets, artificial civilians walking about their daily routines. It looked peaceful, real. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed. The simulated civilians began panicking. On the colony's edge, raider ships appeared. Dozens of them. The AI was programmed to be aggressive, overwhelming. It was designed to test how species handled chaos and fear. The raiders deployed. Armed figures materialized, charging toward the colony center. There were at least 60 of them. Heavily armed. Standard response would be to establish a defensive perimeter, Velthar said, mostly to himself. Hold the central area, minimize casualties. The humans did not establish a defensive perimeter. Instead, Captain Daehyun split his team into 3 groups. But they didn't move to defensive positions. They moved toward the raiders. "What are they doing?" Thorin asked, confused. Velthar leaned forward. He wanted to know the same thing. Woojin took position on a rooftop with modified weapons. He wasn't defending. He was hunting. His first shots took down 3 raiders before they even reached the colony proper. Clean headshots. Precise. Efficient. Lucky shots. Someone in the observation booth said. The next volley proved it wasn't luck. 5 more raiders dropped. Wu Jin's position gave him perfect sight lines, and he used them mercilessly. Meanwhile, He Jin was doing something unexpected. She wasn't just evacuating civilians. She was organizing them, giving them tools, creating obstacles in the raiders' path. The simulated civilians, following her instructions, became part of the defense. That's allowed? Thorin asked. Nothing in the rules prevents it, Velthar said slowly. His eyes remained fixed on the display. But it was Captain Dae Hyun and Lieutenant Ji-won who made Velthar's skin prickle with unease. They had positioned themselves in what looked like a terrible location. An exposed plaza with minimal cover. Raiders were converging on their position from 3 directions. It looked like a death trap. En Jaste passed. They made a mistake, the Valorn delegate said with satisfaction. They'll be overrun. Velthar wasn't so sure. The way Daehyun stood, relaxed, but ready, didn't suggest a mistake. It suggested a plan. The raiders entered the plaza. 20 of them, weapons raised. They had the humans surrounded. Then G1 triggered something. The plaza floor erupted. Not with explosives. With the colony's own infrastructure. Steam vents, maintenance hatches, emergency barriers. The raiders found themselves suddenly separated, confused, their formation broken, and Daehyun struck. He moved faster than Velthar expected. Not superhuman speed, but efficient, trained movement. Every shot hit. Every step had purpose. A raider fell. Then another. Then 3 more. G1 wasn't just fighting. She was directing. Her datapad controlled the colony's systems. She opened doors to channel raiders into kill zones. She locked others to trap them. She turned the entire environment into a weapon. This is unconventional, Thorin said, sounding uncertain now. The simulation continued. 30 minutes passed. The raiders, programmed to adapt, changed their tactics. They became more cautious, more aggressive. They split their forces, attacked from unexpected angles. The humans adapted faster. Wu Jin abandoned his sniper position and moved to a new location before the raiders could target him. Hai Jin redirected the civilians to create new obstacles. Daehyun and Ji-won didn't just react to the raiders' changes. They predicted them. Velthar watched as the raiders began to hesitate. It was subtle. The AI was sophisticated, designed to mimic real psychology, and it was showing something Velthar had never seen in a simulation before. Fear. The raiders weren't winning. They were dying. And the humans weren't just defending. They were hunting. One raider group tried to flank around the colony's edge. Wu Jin was already there, waiting. They walked into his firing zone, like animals into a trap. Another group tried to overwhelm Daehyun's position with numbers. G1 had already rerouted colony defenses. Automated systems the raiders thought were disabled suddenly activated, catching them in crossfire. How are they doing this? Someone whispered. Velthar pulled up the tactical analysis. The computer tracked all variables. Ammunition usage, positioning, casualty rates. Strategic efficiency. Human ammunition efficiency, 94%. Almost every shot was hitting. Human casualties, 0. Raider casualties, 48 and climbing. Time elapsed. 1 hour, 12 minutes. Impossible, Thorin breathed. But it was happening. Velthar watched it happen. The final raider group made a desperate push for the colony center. 15 of them. Heavily armed, using every trick in the AI's programming. They should have succeeded. The numbers favored them. Captain Daehyun stood alone in the colony's central plaza. He had sent his team to secure other areas. He faced 15 raiders by himself. He's going to die, the Valorn delegate said. Dae-hyun didn't look worried. He looked patient. The raiders advanced. Dae-hyun didn't fire. He waited. Let them get closer. Closer. Then, he moved. Velthar had studied Kryn combat techniques his entire life. He knew efficiency. He understood tactical movement. What he watched Dae-hyun do transcended technique. The human flowed between raiders like water. His weapon fired in controlled bursts. When it ran dry, he didn't panic. He used it as a club, striking with the heavy weapon. He grabbed a raider's gun and turned it against its owner. He used bodies for cover, walls for angles, every advantage the environment offered. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't honorable. It was effective. The last raider fell 90 seconds later. Simulation complete, the computer announced. Time: 2 hours, 17 minutes. Defender casualties: 0. Civilian casualties: 0. Raider casualties: 100%. Silence filled the observation booth. Velthar stared at the statistics. Perfect score. No casualties. Complete elimination of enemy forces. In less than 3 hours. The chamber's holographics faded. Below, the human team regrouped. They weren't celebrating. They were checking equipment, discussing what went wrong, what could be improved, treating a perfect victory as merely acceptable. I want to see the replay, Velthar said quietly. What? Thorin looked shaken. The full replay, every angle. I need to understand what I just witnessed. Over the next 4 hours, Velthar watched the simulation 7 times. Each viewing revealed new details. The humans hadn't just fought well. They had fought with a level of coordination and adaptation that shouldn't be possible for a species new to Coalition standards. They used tactics that weren't in the Kryn military database. When he tried to classify their strategy, the computer couldn't find matches. Psychological warfare. One section was labeled. Deliberate strategic deception, said another. But what disturbed Velthar most was the Raider AI's analysis. At the end, the computer had flagged something unusual. The AI had attempted several times to trigger its surrender protocols. The enemy simulation had tried to give up, but humans didn't accept surrender in this scenario. They eliminated every threat completely. That night, Velthar couldn't sleep. He went to his quarters terminal and accessed Earth's military history files. What he found there made the simulation make sense, and that terrified him even more. 6 months passed, like a slow dream. The humans were accepted into the Galactic Coalition, though with restrictions. They were classified as support personnel, not full military members. Not yet. The Coalition Council didn't trust what they had seen in the simulation. Or perhaps, they trusted it too much. Velthar returned to active duty with the Kryn 4th Fleet. He had requested this. Observation duty had become uncomfortable after the humans. He needed to be a soldier again, not a watcher. But the universe had other plans. We're getting human support personnel, Fleet Commander Thrace announced during the morning briefing. 4 of them. They arrive in 2 days. Velthar felt something cold move through his chest. Thrace checked his datapad. A Sergeant Tae-Yang, Corporal So-Ra, Medic Hyun-Woo, and they're still led by that captain from the trials. Dae-Hyun, I think. Of course it was Dae-Hyun. The universe was testing Velthar. The 4th Fleet patrolled the Outer Rim, the dangerous edge of Coalition space. Raiders, pirates, and worse things lurked in the darkness between stars. It was honest work for honest soldiers. The Kryn were good at it. When the humans arrived, Velthar was assigned as their liaison. He met them in the docking bay of the fleet's flagship. Captain Dae-Hyun looked exactly the same. Stern, watchful, dangerous. The others were new to Velthar. Sergeant Tae-Yang was built like a boulder, shorter than Dae-Hyun but broader. His face was scarred, and his eyes held the look of someone who had seen terrible things and survived. Corporal So-Ra was small, thin, with steady hands and the patient stillness of a predator. Velthar later learned she was a sniper. That made sense. Medic Hyunwoo seemed the gentlest of them all, with soft features and a ready smile. He carried medical supplies instead of extra weapons. Velthar found him the least threatening. He would remember that mistake later. Observer Velthar, Daehyun said, recognizing him immediately. Good to see you again. Captain, welcome to the 4th Fleet. We're here to learn and support. We won't get in your way. They didn't. For 3 weeks, the humans were model support personnel. They assisted with maintenance, helped in the medical bay, trained in the gym. They were professional, polite, and careful not to overstep. Velthar started to relax. Perhaps the simulation had been a fluke. Perhaps humans were just clever, but not actually dangerous. Then the Vrax attacked. The distress call came at 0400 hours, ship time. A mining colony on outpost Tertius was under assault. The Vrax swarm was hitting them hard. Hundreds of raiders, heavily armed, no mercy. The 4th Fleet scrambled. Velthar had fought the Vrax before. They were brutal, efficient, and had no concept of honor or rules. They killed everyone and took everything. They had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades. Fleet Commander Thrace called an emergency briefing. The holographic display showed Outpost Tertius. The colony had maybe 6 hours before the Vrax overwhelmed their defenses. Standard protocol, Thrace said. We evacuate the civilians. Establish a defensive perimeter. Hold until reinforcements arrive from the 6th Fleet. That's 12 hours for reinforcements, someone pointed out. Then we hold for 12 hours. Commander, Captain Daehyun said quietly from the back of the room. There's another option. Every Kryn officer turned to look at the human. Thrace's face was unreadable. Explain. The Vrax staging ground is 3 hours from here. Small moon, minimal defenses. If we strike there, the assault on Outpost Tertius loses its support. The raiders already there will be isolated, easier to defeat. That's suicide, Thrace said flatly. The Vrax don't leave their staging grounds undefended. You'd need a battalion to take one. You'd need a battalion of Kryn, Daehyun corrected gently. You have 4 humans. The room fell silent. Then several Kryn officers laughed. Not mockingly. Nervously. The idea was absurd. Captain, Velthar found himself saying, the Vrax are not a simulation. They won't hesitate. They won't show fear. They're real. Daehyun looked at him. His eyes were calm. I know, Thrace considered. Velthar could see the calculation happening. If the humans failed, he lost 4 support personnel. If they succeeded, he saved a colony and dealt a blow to the Vrax. If they tried and succeeded, he looked brilliant. If they tried and failed, he could blame their overconfidence. You have authorization, Thrace finally said, but I'm not sending fleet resources. You use what you brought. Understood, Commander. We'll need a shuttle and access to the armory. Done. Try not to die, Captain. The paperwork would be annoying. Velthar found himself volunteering. I'll monitor their progress. Remote observation. Thrace nodded. Fine. Observer, you'll coordinate with our fleet. If the humans fail, we proceed with standard protocol. 3 hours later, Velthar sat in the monitoring station, watching the feeds from the drones tracking the human shuttle. His hearts were beating too fast. This was wrong. 4 soldiers against a Vrax staging ground was madness. The shuttle approached the moon silently. No broadcasts. No signals. Just steady, patient movement. Human team to observer. Daehyun's voice came through the comm. We're beginning approach. Acknowledged, Velthar replied. Vrax presence is confirmed. At least 40 hostiles visible on surface. Unknown numbers inside the facility. Understood. Going dark. The shuttle landed on the moon's far side. The humans disembarked. Velthar watched through the drone feed. They moved in complete silence, using hand signals. Professional. Efficient. Then they reached the Vrax facility, and Velthar watched as humans became something else. Sergeant Taeyang didn't assault the entrance. He studied it, found a maintenance shaft, and led his team through the colony's infrastructure. They appeared inside the facility, behind the Vrax lines. The first Vrax patrol died without making a sound. Corporal So-Ra killed them from 30 meters away with silenced weapons. 3 shots. 3 dead Vrax. The bodies were hidden. The humans moved deeper. Velthar kept expecting alarms. The Vrax were alert, trained, dangerous. But the humans moved like ghosts. They appeared, killed, and vanished. One by one, the Vrax began dying. Then something changed. The humans wanted to be seen. Taeyang allowed a Vrax patrol to spot them. The raiders called alerts, rushed to intercept. But when they arrived, they found their own comrades dead, arranged in specific ways. Velthar didn't understand the patterns at first. "What are they doing?" he whispered. Then he realized. The humans were sending messages. The arrangement of bodies, the types of wounds, the locations. They were speaking to the Vrax in a language of fear. The Vrax started to panic. Velthar watched their communications. The raiders were reporting ghosts, demons, invisible enemies. The humans had killed 15 Vrax, and the entire staging ground was falling apart. Medic Hyunwoo's squad was ambushed. 5 Vrax caught them in a corridor. Velthar watched helplessly as the medic was separated from his team, surrounded. "Human team, you have casualties incoming," Velthar transmitted. 3 hostiles converging on the medic's position. "Velthar, Velthar, 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 Velthar," transmitted. "Negative," Daehyun's voice replied, strangely calm. Velthar watched as the Vrax closed on the medic. Hyunwoo raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. The Vrax approached, weapons ready. Then Hyunwoo smiled. Velthar would remember that smile for the rest of his life. It wasn't fear. It wasn't surrender. It was anticipation. The medic triggered something on his vest. The medical supplies he carried erupted. Not violently. Precisely. A carefully controlled explosion that killed all 3 Vrax instantly and left Hyunwoo standing in the center, dust-covered but unharmed. He rigged his medical supplies as weapons. Velthar said to the empty monitoring room, "Medical supplies can be versatile." Hyunwoo's voice came through the comm. He sounded apologetic. "I'll need new equipment, though." The assault continued. The humans weren't just winning. They were destroying. The Vrax staging ground fell into complete chaos. Raiders fled their posts. Some tried to escape to their ships. Corporal So-Ra killed them as they ran. 47 Vrax died in 2 hours. The staging ground was neutralized. The humans accomplished what should have required a battalion. When they returned to the shuttle, Velthar heard their casual conversation. "So-Ra, your count was 23? Taeyang asked. 24. 19. I'm getting slow. I only got 4, Hyunwoo said sadly. But I used up all my supplies. Quality over quantity, Daehyun said. Good work, everyone. Back to the ship. At Outpost Tertius, the Vrax assault collapsed. Without support from their staging ground, the raiders broke and fled. The Fourth Fleet barely had to fight. The battle was over. Fleet Commander Thrace stared at the reports for a long time. Then he looked at Captain Daehyun, standing calmly at attention. You killed 47 Vrax with 4 soldiers? Yes, Commander. The Vrax are retreating. Completely. They've abandoned the sector. Yes, Commander. Why are they retreating? We convinced them it was in their best interest. Thrace looked at Velthar. Observer, your analysis? Velthar didn't know what to say. He had watched the entire mission. He had seen what the humans did, but putting it into words felt impossible. "They fought well, Commander," he finally managed. That night, Velthar went to his quarters and accessed Earth's military history again. He read about Vietnam, about World War II, about tactics called psychological operations, about humans who weaponized fear itself. He understood now. The simulation hadn't been a fluke. This was what humans were, and they were on his side. That should have been comforting. Instead, Velthar felt something he hadn't experienced since the Breach War. Terror. Velthar couldn't sleep. His quarters were dark and quiet, but his mind was loud. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the Vrax staging ground, the bodies, the fear, the humans moving through it all like it was routine. He gave up on sleep and went to the observation lounge. The stars beyond the window were cold comfort. He stood there for a long time, trying to understand what he had witnessed. "Can't sleep either." Velthar turned. Lieutenant G1 stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of that steaming liquid humans drank. Coffee, they called it. "I brought extra," she said, approaching. Velthar accepted the cup. The warmth felt good against his hands. "How did you know I'd be here? You have the look." "Everyone gets it the first time they watch us work." She sat on the bench near the window, casual and relaxed. "Want to talk about it? I watched your team kill 47 Vrax without losing anyone. I watched your medic use medical supplies as weapons. I watched the enemy flee in terror." Velthar sat across from her. "I don't understand." "What don't you understand?" "How you fight." "The Kryn have studied warfare for thousands of years. We have strategies, tactics, honor codes. But what I saw today, it was something else." G1 sipped her coffee, thinking, "Can I tell you about Earth? I've read the files. The files don't explain it right." She looked out at the stars. "Earth is a death world. You know this. But do you know what that means? Really means?" Velthar shook his head. "It means everything on our planet tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the diseases, other humans. For millions of years, we were prey. Lions hunted us. Bears hunted us. Things in the dark hunted us. We were weak, slow, no claws, no armor, no venom. But you survived. We did more than survive. We learned. We adapted. We became the hunters." G1's voice was soft but intense. "We learned to throw rocks, then spears, then arrows. We learned to chase prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to set traps, to plan, to work together. We turned our weaknesses into weapons. That explains your tactics. But not." Velthar struggled to find words. "Not the fear you create. The Vrax are trained warriors. They don't scare easily. Everyone scares." G1 said simply, "Fear is natural. It keeps you alive. The Vrax are brave. Yes, but they've never faced something like humans before. What makes you different?" G1 looked at him directly. "We don't just fight to win, Velthar. We fight to make the other side regret fighting us at all. We fight to make them tell stories that scare their children. We fight to make them choose to run rather than face us again." Velthar felt that cold sensation in his chest again. Psychological warfare. It's more than that. It's about understanding that war isn't just about killing. It's about will. The Vrax have weapons and numbers. So we attacked their will. We made them fear us more than they feared failure. Is this what all human warfare looks like? G1 was quiet for a moment. "Do you really want to know about human warfare?" "Yes. We've been fighting wars for our entire history. Thousands of years. Millions of battles. We've killed billions of our own species. We've created weapons that can destroy entire cities in seconds. We've invented ways to hurt each other that would make the Vrax look merciful." Velthar said nothing. "But we've also learned. We've learned that the best warriors aren't the ones who love fighting. They're the ones who hate war so much that they end it as fast as possible. Total victory. Complete defeat of the enemy's will to fight. That sounds ruthless. It is, Ji-won agreed. But it's also merciful. Fast wars kill fewer people than slow ones. If we make our enemies surrender quickly, fewer beings die. It's a strange kind of kindness. 1. Before Velthar could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Emergency status. Both of them ran to their stations. The briefing room was chaos. Fleet Commander Thrace stood at the central display. His face grim. Pirates have taken hostages, he announced. 3,000 civilians from multiple coalition species. They've fortified an asteroid base in the Kelthis system. They're demanding ransoms we can't pay. Standard protocol is negotiation. Someone said. Negotiation will take weeks. They'll execute hostages to prove they're serious. We'll lose at least 10%. Maybe more. Captain Daehyun stepped forward. Commander, request permission for human team to handle this. The room went silent. Thrace stared at the human. Handle it. How? Hostage rescue. Full extraction. 0 civilian casualties. 0 civilian casualties. That's impossible. The asteroid is a fortress. Sensor scans show at least 150 pirates. All armed. The hostages are scattered throughout the base. Any assault would be detected immediately. The pirates would start executing hostages before we even breached, unless they don't know we're coming. Thrace shook his head. Even if you could infiltrate, which I doubt, you can't evacuate 3,000 people without being noticed. We won't evacuate them, Dae-hyun said calmly. We'll secure the base, eliminate all hostile forces, then signal for pickup. The hostages never leave their cells until we control the entire facility. You're talking about killing 150 pirates without alerting any of them, while protecting 3,000 hostages, with 4 soldiers. Yes, Commander. Velthar found himself speaking without thinking. It's impossible, even for humans. In Resplendid, Daehyun looked at him. There was no anger in his eyes. Just certainty. Give us 48 hours. Thrace looked around the room. Every Kryn officer was shaking their heads. This was beyond reason. Beyond possibility. If you fail, those hostages die, Thrace said. If we don't try, how many die anyway? Thrace was silent for a long moment. 48 hours. After that, we negotiate. Velthar, you monitor again. Yes, Commander. The human team left immediately. Velthar watched them prepare. They moved with focused efficiency, checking weapons, studying floor plans, running through hand signals. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. They can't succeed, Fleet Commander Thrace said, standing next to Velthar. Yes, Commander, but I had to let them try. If there's even a small chance, I understand. 12 hours later, the human shuttle approached the asteroid. Velthar watched through the most advanced stealth drones the fleet had. The pirates had sensors, automated defenses, guards. The base was a fortress, just as Thrace said. The humans didn't attack the fortress. They became part of it. Velthar watched as they attached their shuttle to an old mining shaft, one the pirates probably thought was sealed. They cut through carefully, silently. Then they entered the asteroid's infrastructure, not the base. The tunnels and maintenance systems beneath it. For 6 hours, the humans moved through the darkness. They studied the base from below. They mapped every room. They identified every pirate. They located every hostage. Then they added something new to their plan. More humans. Wait, Velthar said to his monitoring station. How many humans are there? He counted. 8 moving figures. but only 4 humans had entered. Then he understood. The humans were wearing pirate armor. They had killed 4 pirates so quietly that no one noticed. Now they moved through the base wearing enemy uniforms. The pirates saw their own comrades walking the halls. They didn't see death approaching. Hour by hour, the humans worked. They didn't assault. They infiltrated. When they found lone pirates, those pirates died. When they found small groups, those groups died. Always silent. Always clean. The hostages never knew. The other pirates never knew. Bodies were hidden. Armor was stolen. The humans multiplied. Velthar watched the pirate count slowly decrease. 150. 140. 130. By hour 36, half the pirates were dead. The survivors still hadn't realized. Then someone found a body. Alarms started. The pirates went on alert, searching for infiltrators. Too late. Captain Dae-hyun and Sergeant Tae-yang revealed themselves in the central control room. Corporal So-ra and Medic Hyun-woo did the same in the armory. The humans had positioned themselves at the base's critical points. The pirates tried to respond. They found their weapons offline. Their communications jammed. Their escape routes blocked. Velthar watched as the remaining pirates fought. They were brave, desperate, doomed. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it ended, 150 pirates were dead. 3,000 hostages were secured. 0 civilian casualties. The human team contacted the fleet. Hostages secure. Ready for extraction. Active leet. R-teen. Reteen. R-teen. Velthar ran diagnostics on the monitoring data. He couldn't believe it. He ran them again. The numbers didn't change. Fleet Commander Thrace's voice came through the comm. Human team. Repeat your status. All hostiles neutralized. All hostages safe and secure. 0 casualties among civilians or our team. Ready for your arrival. Commander. Thrace looked at Velthar. How? I don't know, Commander. I watched it happen, and I still don't know. When the fleet arrived at the asteroid, the scene was surreal. 3,000 grateful civilians waited in organized groups. The human team sat calmly in the control room, drinking coffee. Around them, throughout the base, were the bodies of 150 pirates. It looks like a slaughterhouse, one Kryn officer said quietly. No. Velthar replied. A slaughterhouse is messy. This is surgical. 1. Velthar. That night, Velthar sat in the observation lounge again. He didn't jump when Captain Dae-hyun joined him. You're wondering how we did it, Dae-hyun said. I watched. I saw everything. I still don't understand. The Kryn are excellent warriors, strong, skilled, honorable. But you fight wars a certain way. With rules. With structure. And humans, we fight to survive. We use every advantage, every trick. We don't care about honor in battle. We care about going home alive. That mission should have been impossible. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. Impossible is where we start. Survival is what we achieve. 3 weeks after the hostage rescue, Velthar received a summons. Coalition Command wanted a full report on human combat capabilities. They wanted it from him personally. The command station was pristine and cold, filled with officers from a dozen species. Velthar stood before them, datapad in hand, and tried to explain what he had witnessed. The humans are effective, he began carefully. Their tactics are unconventional but successful. Unconventional how? Asked Commander Vrix, a Valorn with skeptical eyes. They don't fight the way we expect. They use deception, fear, and complete environmental awareness. They turn everything into a weapon. Give us specifics. Velthar pulled up footage from the Vrak's staging ground. He showed them the bodies arranged to send messages. He showed them Medic Hyun-woo's explosive medical supplies. He showed them the psychological breakdown of trained raiders. The room was silent. "And the hostage rescue?" another officer asked. More footage. 3,000 lives saved. 150 enemies eliminated. 0 friendly casualties. "This is disturbing," Commander Vrick said quietly. "Yes," Velthar agreed. "It is. Are they dangerous to the Coalition?" That was the question, wasn't it? Velthar had been asking himself the same thing for weeks. "If they were our enemies," Velthar said slowly, "we would be in serious trouble. But they're not. They're allies. And that's what makes them most valuable." "Explain." "The humans fight the way they do because of their world. Because of their history. They've survived things that would destroy other species. They've learned to win no matter what, but they choose to use that ability to protect others. That's what makes them different. There's Luder. There's one." End quote. The briefing ended with uncertainty. Coalition Command didn't know what to do with humans. They were too effective to ignore. Too dangerous to fully trust. Velthar returned to the 4th Fleet, his mind full of questions. He found Lieutenant G1 in the training room, running combat drills with Kryn soldiers. The soldiers were learning human techniques. They looked uncomfortable but interested. "They're good students," G1 said when she saw Velthar. "Fast learners. You're teaching them your methods?" "Some of them, the parts that work for Kryn physiology." She paused the drill and walked over. "You look troubled." "I gave my report to command. They're afraid of you. Of us specifically. Or of what we represent? Both, I think." G1 nodded. "It's a reasonable fear. We're good at killing. Too good. Maybe. Why do you share your methods then? If other species learn human tactics, you lose your advantage." "We don't want an advantage," G1 said simply. "We want allies. Strong allies. The galaxy is a dangerous place. The more species that can defend themselves effectively, the safer everyone is." Velthar sat on a training bench. "I need to ask you something. It's been bothering me since the Vrax mission." "Go ahead. Why don't humans fear death?" "I watched Hyun Woo face 5 enemies alone." He smiled. He knew he might die, and he smiled. G1 was quiet for a long moment. "We do fear death. We fear it a lot. But we fear other things more." "Like what?" "Failure. Letting our team down. Letting innocents die when we could have saved them. Humans will die to prevent those things. It's not that we don't value our lives. We just value other things more. I don't have words for that." "Sacrifice," G1 said. "That's the word you're looking for." That evening, Velthar was invited to dinner with the human team. They gathered in a small mess hall, eating food from Earth. They offered him some. It was strange, but not unpleasant. "Observer Velthar," Sergeant Taeyang said between bites. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you volunteer to monitor our missions?" "You don't have to. It's dangerous, even from a distance." Velthar considered his answer carefully. "Because I need to understand. You fight in ways I've never seen. You win battles that should be impossible. I need to know how. And why." "Oh, I need to know. I need to know. And why." "Have you figured it out?" Corporal Sora asked. "I think so. You fight the way you do because you have no choice. Your planet made you this way. Your history made you this way. You're not warriors by choice. You're survivors by necessity." Medic Hyun Woo smiled gently. "That's very insightful, but it doesn't explain everything," Velthar continued. "It doesn't explain why you help us. You could have stayed on Earth. Built defenses. Protected only your own. Why join the Coalition?" Captain Daehyun set down his eating utensils. "Because isolation is death. We learned that the hard way. Earth's history is full of groups that tried to survive alone. They always failed. Cooperation, alliance, mutual protection. That's how humans survived. Not by being strongest, but by working together. So you extend that to other species? Why not? The principle is the same. We're all trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Better to do it together. Not all species think that way, Velthar said quietly. We know. We've met species that only care about their own. Species that see others as resources or threats. But that's not sustainable. Eventually, you run out of enemies to conquer or allies to exploit. Then you're alone. Over the following months, Velthar watched the humans integrate into the Fourth Fleet. They trained with Kryn soldiers. They shared meals. They told stories. Slowly, carefully, they became part of the crew. And the crew changed. Kryn soldiers started using human tactics. Not all of them. Not the extreme ones, but the smart ones. Environmental awareness, psychological operations, creative problem solving. The Fourth Fleet became more effective. Other fleets noticed. More humans were requested. The support personnel designation quietly disappeared. Humans became full military members. But Velthar never forgot what they really were. One night, 6 months after the hostage rescue, an alert came through. Unknown vessels approaching Coalition space. Dozens of them. Large, hostile. The Fourth Fleet scrambled. So did the Fifth, Sixth, and Seventh. This was big. Potentially a war. The unknown vessels were from a species called the Dreth. They were conquerors. Strong, numerous, and aggressive. They sent a simple message. Submit or be destroyed. The Coalition refused. War began. The Dreth were formidable. They outnumbered Coalition forces. Their weapons were powerful. Their tactics were brutal. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. For 3 weeks, the Coalition fought and lost ground. Colonies evacuated. Fleets retreated. The Dreth pushed deeper into Coalition space. Then the humans showed them what terror really meant. Velthar watched from the flagship as human teams infiltrated Dreth supply lines. As human specialists turned Dreth aggression into a weakness. As human tacticians predicted every Dreth move and countered it. The Dreth had never fought an enemy like humans. They were used to opponents who fought with honor and clear rules. Humans had no such limitations. Captain Dae-hyun led a strike team deep into Dreth territory. They didn't attack military targets. They attacked morale. They broadcast Dreth defeats. They spread rumors. They made the Dreth fear the dark. Sergeant Taeyang's unit turned a Dreth fortress into a graveyard. Not through direct assault. Through patience, precision, and psychological warfare. Corporal So-ra eliminated Dreth commanders from distances the Dreth thought impossible. The survivors stopped trusting open spaces. Medic Hyun-woo saved hundreds of Coalition soldiers, then turned his medical knowledge into weapons that terrified Dreth warriors. The war lasted 4 months. The Dreth, who had never retreated from any conflict, withdrew from Coalition space. They sent a message. We will not fight humans again. We will not fight humans again. After the war, Velthar sat in his quarters, writing his final report. He tried to find words to describe what humans were. Warriors? Yes. Survivors? Definitely. Dangerous? Absolutely. But those words didn't capture it. He finally settled on simpler truth. Humans are what happens when a species refuses to die. They're what happens when every challenge makes you stronger instead of breaking you. They're what happens when you learn that survival means adapting, learning, and never, ever giving up. They are terrifying to fight against, but they are invaluable to fight beside. The Coalition is stronger with humans in it. Not because they make us more dangerous, but because they make us more determined. They show us that impossible is just another challenge to overcome. A knock on his door interrupted his writing. Captain Dae-hyun stood in the corridor. Am I disturbing you? The human asked. No. Come in. Dae-hyun entered and looked at Velthar's datapad. Yes. Command wants to know what I think about humans. What do you think about humans? Velthar looked at the captain. This human, who had saved countless lives, who had terrified the galaxy's worst enemies, who had shown the coalition what true determination looked like. I think, Velthar said carefully, that I'm grateful you're on our side. Daehyun smiled slightly. That's mutual. The Kryn are good people. Good allies. We're honored to fight with you. Can I ask you something honestly? Always. Do you ever regret it? Being what you are? Being so good at violence? Daehyun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but firm. Every day. We hate war. We hate killing. We hate what we're capable of. But we hate letting innocent people suffer more. So we become monsters, to fight monsters. We do terrible things so others don't have to. That's a heavy burden. It is. But it's ours to carry. And we carry it willingly. After Daehyun left, Velthar sat alone with his thoughts. He remembered the first day he saw humans. Small, weak, fragile. He had dismissed them. He remembered the simulation, the Vrax mission, the hostage rescue, the war with the Dreth. He remembered learning what terror really meant. Not the fear of dying, not the fear of pain, but the fear of facing an enemy that simply will not stop, will not quit, will not accept defeat. That was what humans were. That was what made them terrifying, and that was what made them invaluable. Velthar finished his report with a single recommendation. Grant humans full status in all coalition military operations. Train all personnel in human tactical methods, and never, ever, give them reason to become our enemies. He submitted the report and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth rotated peacefully. That small blue world that created these incredible, terrifying, wonderful beings. Velthar had never felt terror until he witnessed humans in battle. Now he felt something else. He felt safe. Because the humans were on his side. And that meant the galaxy's worst nightmares would never be his problem. They would be theirs. And that was enough.